Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry, from the informative to the insane. Starring Ryan Rash.
Good looking and well built should take you places in the show ring every time.
And Dale Hummel.
Come on, man. Look, here's the deal.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
See, it wasn't Brian. It was clearly Ryan today.
There you go. So proud that you have my name right after all these years.
You notice the White House Secret Service has closed the door on the cocaine investigation. 0 suspects. 0.
It's done. It's over.
Can you explain this to me? 0 suspects.
Yes, I can explain it.
Investigation is over.
I can explain it very simply. Everyone that is part of the Biden administration, other than maybe Joe, Hunter, and Jill, are working to get him out. And that's why they have closed this investigation with no suspects. Because I don't care if they pinned it on some low-life staffer's nephew that came in. They could pin this on anyone and give you wouldn't even have to give a name. Say, we found the perpetrator. We know who it was. They've been reprimanded, brought up on whatever, all this other stuff. They're not going to do it because they want everyone to be unsure. And the more that you're unsure, the more you think that there's a cover-up involved. And they are working to get this man to not run again. It is obvious in all the things, all the press, that's the way that everything's been handled, all the stuff. And now, today, something that even, I'm not even sure if Joe is unsure that he's not running, because today some numbers came in, and these are flat astonishing to me. I mean, really. In the second quarter of this year, according to campaign stuff, Biden had 4 people on payroll, spent less than $1,500 on travel, accommodations, and airfare. And all in all, the Biden campaign spent $1.1 million on their reelection campaign in the second quarter of this year. Now, if you will fast track back to when Barack Obama was at the same place in the same setting running for re-election in the second quarter of 2011, he spent $11 million. So I don't even know if Joe may realize he's not right.
See, I firmly believe that, and I'm not disagreeing with your little conspiracy theory.
That is not a conspiracy theory. That is fact.
I actually agree with it that Joe will not be running. However, I also believe that Joe has not been told he's not running, is unaware that he's not running for multiple, whether he just doesn't understand it or they haven't had that sit down with him. In his mind, he is running for the presidency.
I'm not sure. That's just mind-boggling to me. And the way that they're handling everything, from the new emails that are out about Hunter and Burisma and Joe going over there to get what the effective attorney general of Ukraine fired, all of that is now out there in black and white print, that it was all a set-up deal. And no one is denying it. No one is trying to put a face to the cocaine scandal. I mean, they are just letting everyone's speculation go crazy and rampant. And that is not what you do if you're trying to get someone reelected. So maybe he doesn't know, but everybody else is in on the gig, and they're trying to get him run the hell out of there.
I do believe there is a portion of the party that has some power that is going to push him out. But what I don't understand is I don't know how this is organized. I don't know who's doing it. I don't understand that whole situation. I just don't. I'm not saying it's not happening. I just don't know how that can all come together.
Be very, very interesting.
It would be good to know who's truly pulling those strings, if there is somebody doing that. And I believe there has to be somebody. It's very, very interesting. I have a book, Ryan, that tells all about the Hunter Biden laptop, 600 and some pages of information, basically off the laptop that a friend let me borrow for a couple of days. Very interesting.
Would you like to give us any insights on that?
No, it's not rated PG. It is in black and white, and I don't know what, I mean, maybe somebody just made all this up, but it appears to be fairly authentic. Even if 1% of what is in this book is authentic, That man should be in jail. Joe should be in jail. Joe's brother should be in jail. I think the whole damn Biden family should be in jail.
Not Jill. What did Jill do besides she's not a doctor?
She's an honorary doctor, isn't she?
She's not a real doctor.
Yeah, she was awarded some honorary
She's not a real
degree.
doctor.
Maybe not. I want to shift gears to the international stage. I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
When the United States appears to be weak
Yes.
on the international stage, what
is now.
What is the response from Russia and China? What are they going to do?
They're going to push the limits as far as they physically possibly can without getting blown up.
And the limit they have until they find resistance. Have they found any yet?
No.
None. It is amazing to me with China as we speak right now. They're continually hacking into our secure documents. Obviously, when we have situations like that going on, we probably should not be sending diplomats to China to kowtow to Xi and play nice and everything that they're trying to do to get China to be less aggressive towards us. That is doing nothing more than empowering them and allowing them or encouraging them to be more aggressive, in my opinion.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong, but this is the whole thing. China's going to go as far as they possibly can until they meet resistance. I don't think they're going to meet any resistance from this administration because I personally think that all of this has been orchestrated with the Chinese. Like, again, we're not supporting Taiwan anymore, all this other stuff. You never even hear Joe mention China. Like, the words don't come out of his mouth. And so there is no resistance there, so they're going to push as far as they can. And, I'm going to talk to you, too. You were all bleeding heart for Ukraine and all this bullshit at the beginning. This is the biggest waste of money that the United States has spent in a very long time. And I do not anymore believe this war is ever going to end. That it's because Putin is not going to get what he wants and Ukraine's not going to get what they want. So they may stop for a little bit, but it's not over. And again, we're just throwing money at the problem. If you want to throw money at this problem, then do something detrimental to Russia to get them to stop. Put them in line, put them in check, and be done with it. This just sending billions and millions of everything over there to help little Ukraine. Yeah, I am.
We talked about a simple solution to this. All we have to do is become energy independent, maybe a little better, and all of a sudden the oil prices come down and Russia starves. That is a very easy solution.
I don't care what the solution is, but what they're doing is not working. And it's not, and the whole thing is, it's not working for the people that are supporting Ukraine. It's not working for Ukraine. And it's also not working for Russia. So it's a vicious, stupid cycle. And again, I think y'all can call me inhumane, whatever. I hope they both blow each other up. Just bomb both the countries to smithereens and be done with them. Ukraine is just as dirty as Russia is. Y'all just don't want to believe it because y'all bought into the little act that little short man that runs that country started.
He's really good.
Yeah, well, he ain't any good anymore. You should have seen him when he was begging and being NATO, and they said no, and he got all pissed off. And does the man not own a suit? Let's just be real honest.
I think he puts on a military T-shirt. I don't know what he wore last time.
The same shit. Cargo pants and a military T-shirt. To meetings, begging to be in NATO. And that's what he wears.
I would assume it's to give the impression that they are at war. They are in a.
It's disrespectful and it's stupid. And he's about 5'1" anyway.
I don't even care what he wears or how tall he is. None of those things. But I do believe you are correct that it's going to go on for a long time unless there's something that drastically changes, and it's not going to change. Because Russia's not afraid of
unless one of those two quit and give in, it's not going to change. Either Ukraine's going to say we quit.
Neither can quit. They can't. Neither country can. I guess Russia can pull back, but Putin can't handle his pride can't handle that. So that's not going to happen. But Ukraine can't quit. That's not even an option.
I'm telling you, you want to make Ukraine can quit. If all of us quit sending him money and weapons, he'll quit. He don't have a choice.
Then they no longer have a country.
Good.
There is no
it's
Ukraine.
Not my country.
Oh, my. I agree.
It's not
There's
my
a lot-
country. It's not your country. What
It
happens in Ukraine? No, nothing that happens in Ukraine affects you. I'm going to be like
My
Tucker.
fear-
And I think Tucker is insane.
And I like Tucker. I think
Of
a
course
lot
you
him.
do. I think Tucker is insane. But anyway, he was interviewing Mike Pence and about all this, and Pence was going on and on about all this stuff that we haven't done for Ukraine and all this. And Tucker interrupted me and said, "Sir, the inner cities are madhouses, crime, violence, shootings, all this. And he lists all these things that have gotten worse in America. And he says, all you're talking about is the country of Ukraine that nobody can pick out on a map, but you're running for president of the United States." And you know what his response was? "That's not my concern, Tucker." Then why the hell are you running for president if America is not your concern? Yeah, over it.
Okay, my 2 cents on the Ukraine thing. I'm in favor.
Don't you defend
anything.
Pence on this podcast. I'll come crazy. I will go nuts.
I will agree and do anything that is detrimental to Russia at this point. Now, can we can
But it's
harm
not
them?
detrimental
It's
because
not-
they're not doing anything.
It is detrimental. It just isn't very efficient. We're spending too much money for the little bit of damage it's doing to them. There's far better ways and more efficient and effective ways to harm Russia than what this is. But I am in favor of harming Russia any and every chance we possibly can.
Well, that's fine with me too. But if they're going to harm Russia, then harm Russia.
I'm with you. The only problem with that is if we do it too directly, he may send a nuclear bomb over here, and that is an issue.
No,
I get it, but we could starve them economically. Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned Taiwan. Amazing. That I can't tell you that other than maybe a week ago, I heard about China pushing the limits and getting ships closer and aircraft invading Taiwan space. But other than that, the media is not even touching it. Not only is the White House not touching it, nobody's talking about it.
No, nobody mentions Taiwan.
And if we try to defend them once the invasion has begun, it's too late anyway. If we were going to truly do something, we needed to send massive.
You would have to be
amounts of
proactive.
everything. Yes,
Not
months
reactive.
ago, a year ago, and to my knowledge, I'm not saying we didn't send anything, but there is no way in hell that we sent enough that Taiwan can defend themselves against China. That is impossible. We would literally have to take everything we have over there and hope to God we could accomplish it at this point. I worry that our military has been depleted over the years to a point that we would have a hard time defending them, partially because of the geographic location and all the other. But it is a problem. I do have one thing, and we got onto Ukraine and Russia, but we have done so little to retaliate against China, in my opinion. And to all of our listeners, why do you and I, Ryan, we could say, and all of our listeners, do not do more to avoid purchasing Chinese products? Because
I don't purchase nothing from China except my cell phone.
You don't even realize it, but you do. And I do the same.
Because I purchase
I'm
very
aware.
few things.
Well,
I purchase clothes, and they are not from China. I have shown you the labels.
Good. No, that is good. So let's put it in a different perspective. Do you think the U.S. citizens still ordered goods and services? And I know world trade wasn't as advanced at this point, but think about when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor. Do you think we still purchase goods and services from Japan at that time? Do you think citizens or the U.S. in general did?
No, I do not. I've read the history books.
So with that said, there is no question that China has a much better plan to bring down the United States than what Japan ever had long term by bombing Pearl Harbor. Yet we still economically fund China more than any other country on the planet.
Can I tell
Why?
you the difference?
Yes, please.
Back during the Pearl Harbor years, everyone was far more involved, informed, and aware of what was going on in scenarios like that than we are now.
Absolutely. Even though there's more media now than ever, you have more.
But that has
access
nothing to do with it because they don't listen to the media because they know it's all bullshit.
Well, what about researching on yourself, using the internet to do the research? They're just. I go back to almost patriotism or awareness.
Dale, I think you would literally lose your head if you went out into any major metropolitan city and asked if people knew who was at war with who, because no one would know. I mean, you see these things. People ask, all kinds of questions like this, and they're like, oh, I don't know. Like, what's the capital of the United States? And people will say Denver. No. I mean, like that is the biggest difference. It's not because I mean, and I don't think nationalism or patriotism is as big a thing as it used to be. When everybody revolted against Japan and Pearl Harbor, it's because they had a greater sense of pride and nationalism, and they weren't going to send their money to anything Japan. Now it's not that way. It's just not, and that's the difference. I think it is wrong, and it should be that way, absolutely. But again, the only thing that I have from China is my cell phone and my computer, so I'm fine.
And I look around and there's things that I'll buy on a daily basis that I don't put enough thought into, and then after the fact I look at it. Hell, I pulled my cell phone case off to look at it for some magnetic holder or something, and assembled or designed in California, assembled in
China.
Oh, I threw it away.
Oh, imagine that.
It was too late. I already gave him the money.
Yes, you shouldn't have thrown it away because you already gave him the money. Just don't buy the same place. But
it is so frustrating to me. Beyond frustrating. I can't even walk down that path. I'm gonna shift gears again. I saw a poll. It was on Fox, but it was a CNN poll that they put Trump, Biden, and neither up there as your choices for our next president. 33% had Trump, 32% on Biden, 31% on neither. That's very telling.
That's why I've been telling you for a month, the third party candidate. That's the Democrats are losing their mind over the no labels party, and they don't even have a candidate yet, but they are making moves. So when they have a candidate, they'll be on the ballot and all this stuff. And the Democrats are losing their mind. I mean, they know how bad it is, because if you're going to get this much up in arm and crazy over a party that doesn't even have a candidate announced, that knows how vulnerable you are.
Absolutely. I mean, I think this population has lost their mind. There's another poll out, and I didn't even get the origin of it. But Ryan, if this were true or enacted, I would be in jail for several life sentences. There was a poll out there. It basically stated that 43% of the people in that poll, or our populace, in theory, indicated that addressing somebody as a gender other than what they choose to be addressed as should be a criminal offense. How many times a day would I be?
Wait, jeez.
How many would I violate this with you, man?
Oh my God!
You don't seem to care.
I don't care because it doesn't. I mean, it does not offend me when you do it because I know you or when whatever. But like I'm telling you, I don't get offended. But when like somebody asks me what my pronouns are or something like that, I'm like, get out of here.
Because you don't have it. Whatever it is,
don't
what it is.
Exactly. I don't
care.
That is not.
Oh, I'm out on pronouns. I don't even want to hear that word again.
I mean, like, and again, I this is simple to me, and I don't understand how it is not simple. There are two genders. You were born a man or you were born a woman. This is a scientific, biological fact. Now, I'm not saying that you can't transition and have sex change operation and all this other stuff to become a man or become a woman or vice versa or whatever, but there are two genders. That's it. This is science. And so all this gender fluidity and pronouns, I do not understand it. And I will never. Like there is no one that could sit down and have I don't care how intelligent they are, a conversation with me that is going to make me believe anything else. Because it's not just, it's animals. You come out a bull or a heifer. You were born a man or a woman. And again, I'm not saying that you can't change, but there are only two genders.
And not saying that you maybe wouldn't prefer to be called one or the other, but to go to the point that it's
a criminal offense.
Oh, Jesus. It just amazes
seriously.
Me. And your buddy in the north, Trudeau, he's pushing pretty hard for this. He is pointing fingers at the far right down here for being very offensive to the LGBTQ RST. How
are people? That's all there has been is stuff. Again, I don't care if it's whatever, all those damn LGBTQ plus whatever, all the things like why are they any more important or special than anybody else? They're not. We're all people.
Be as important.
I think
not any more
yes, I agree. Everybody should be same important. Everybody should get to live their life the way they want to do.
Yeah.
But I should not have to cater to a straight person or a person of color or anything else. And they should not have to cater to me because I am gay. That is just dumb. Dumb, 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 dumb. And they wonder why we're divided. It is because people have got in their mind that, because these people were treated differently 200 years ago, that now they've got to be treated different. No, everybody's made mistakes. We weren't the ones making those mistakes in history, folks. So it's not on me. Next.
Very well put. I have the only last thing I have to throw out is Biden now has a $39 billion student loan relief plan that he's trying to push out into the public. I don't know if that'll get to the Supreme Court. Who knows what will happen with this, but he's not giving up on this. And it just baffles me how this could be popular with the populace. Why would somebody that went to college and paid their student loan back or didn't get a student loan or worked in college?
I don't know why anybody, whether they went to college or didn't go to college, want to pay somebody else's loan off.
Especially a loan that somebody agreed to take out.
Right. They weren't forced to take it. No. They went, they applied for it, asked for it, begged for it, did it. Yeah, no. No.
How is it? Am I missing something here? How does not the population, how are 99% of the population not in an uprage over this?
I think the reason that they're not in an uproar over it right now is because the Supreme Court already shut him down once. I'm sure they'll shut him down again. But that again, just like you said, these people went there, applied, begged, said, "Give me money, and I will go to college, and I will pay it back." And that's what they're supposed to do.
I took out $27,000 a long time ago, and it wasn't a huge amount, but I did pay it back over time. And there was never once that I thought, well, I shouldn't have to pay this back.
Or somebody, or somebody else needs to pay it back for you.
Yes, I was fairly thankful that it was interest-free during college and a very low interest rate after college. It was the cheapest money I've ever borrowed in my life.
Oh,
and that subsidy itself was, I'm sure, taxpayer funded, and just to keep the interest rate down. And that's probably enough. Maybe that shouldn't even be done. Okay, time for something more positive, right?
Yeah. So this week, I'm going to highlight the current top 10 intermediate lamb exhibitors in the BTR JLA. First place from Arizona, Piper Liska. Second place from Nevada, Charlie Fender. Third place from California, Dottie Lefty. Fourth place from Wisconsin, Wyatt Nixon. Fifth place from Texas, Avery Walton. Sixth place from Montana, Zane Downey. Seventh place from California, Alan Morris. Eighth place from Idaho, Mackenzie Waters. Ninth place from Arizona, Adele Simpson. And 10th place from Utah, Ridge Jefferson. So congratulations to all of those kids that are right now in the top 10 of the intermediate lamb division nationally. I would like to thank Showcoat Solutions for being a national corporate sponsor for the past 2 years for BTR JLA, one of our consistent and biggest sponsors. We're very appreciative of them. Champion approved for years, Showcoat manufactures the best award-winning livestock grooming products for show cattle, goats, horses, sheep, and swine. No matter where you are in the country, no matter what species you have in the barn, if you're looking for the winning edge, the advanced shag strategy developed by Showcoat Solutions will change your hair growing routine overnight. They also have step-by-step instructions, partnered with free product application videos, and game-changing customer service will have you wondering why you haven't tried the highest quality, all-natural products in the industry. Again, we really, really appreciate Showcoat Solutions for their support of the BTR JLA, but they support lots of different causes in the junior livestock industry, and it's a great product. So again, thank you, Showcoat. Go to www.showcoat.com and get your animals shagalicious.
Excellent. And thank you very much, Showcoat. And congratulations to those top 10 exhibitors that were spread out throughout most of at least the West.
West, yes.
But scattered a little bit. With that, once again, Ryan, I would like to extend a huge thank you to Showfresh H2O. I took a trip north to Michigan Livestock Expo yesterday, and it was interesting. And this has happened to me several times. 2 people stopped me to give me Showfresh H2O success stories, and it's rare now that I go to a show without hearing some of those, and that makes me feel good. And listeners, I'm telling you right now, if you're showing livestock, you're using the water that's provided at the show without utilizing Showfresh H2O to take out the chlorine, you're not doing everything possible to succeed in the ring. Showfresh H2O can be purchased at your local farm store, supply trailer, or at swampfox.com. Thank you for your support. It is time. Ryan, this was a main topic you came up with all of 36 hours ago.
Yes.
Maybe 24. I don't know when you came up with it. Stop the insanity. Trends in showmanship that are hard nose. Take us into it, Ryan. Take us in.
Well, last year, I don't remember exactly when, but we did a 4-part series on showmanship and went over in depth at all 3 species. And I told them, don't even talk to me about showmanship for a year because we've covered it before on other podcasts. So, and some of this you're going to hurt again. And again, I'm not trying to be negative, but again, when I'm out there judging, and I judge a lot of places in the country and all the species, I think we just need to talk about the things that I'm seeing, and I talk to other judges all the time too. It's not just me or Dale, but I talk to other judges a lot as well.
You talk to other people.
Yeah, and some of these things that are going on right now, none of us know how they got started or why they're doing it, and it just doesn't make sense. As Dale likes to say, everything needs to have a purpose and all this other stuff, and he's not wrong on that. But again, I don't want this to be a negative topic, but I want to highlight some things that are going on right now that I think we probably need to either reevaluate why we're doing it or just not do it at all whatsoever. And so again, I am trying to take some negative things out and make sure they're that you know and why we think they're negative. And so it is we are going to be talking about negative trends, but it is for the positive in the fact that we want everybody to be aware and to become better showmen.
So Mr. Unicorns and Butterfly, he'll be happy with this one then, because it's for the betterment.
So probably because it's too negative. But again, I'm going to have to be negative to get a positive outcome, I guess.
It is so simple. If you're going to do something, do it because it has a purpose, because it's helping the end goal. It is that simple, Ryan. Done. Topic over.
No, your topic is not over, but I think that's one of and you have said that about feeding and selection and showmanship and all the things. I think that's one of the best things that you've ever said, is that everything that you do, you need to have a purpose on why you're doing it. And I think that's very true. And again, this is my top negative trend. And I cannot beat this into you guys' heads.
A recent trend?
No, this is not recent. This is just a trend, and I guess I'm gonna have to like stand on my head and hold my breath and turn blue or something for y'all to listen to me. But the biggest negative trend is not taking your kid to the show and ring and letting them know what's going on.
Yes. And how many times have we preached this? How many
I do not know.
Every show I'm at, I encourage it before we get going.
I say it at the show. I've said it on here. And again, it is the simplest, most effective thing that you can do for your showmanship at that show. And it'll take about 5 minutes. And the bottom line is you will know where to go, where to be, how things work, and you won't look like an idiot when you get in the ring.
And we continue to say this, and how many...
And no one does it.
Droves of people do we see coming to the ring when we get started?
No one does it.
I occasionally will see a parent and a child.
No, there are, but it's not everyone.
There should be dozens of them lining the ring.
Yes. That is the thing. And again, I don't understand why you as a parent or as a showman, number one, don't understand why it's important to know what's going on in the ring and how you're supposed to be out there. And number two, why you would not think that would help improve your chances on everything by not looking like you're dumb when you get out there.
It is that simple. And I mean, just
this just escapes my.
Well, Ryan, take it beyond looking like an idiot. Take it beyond looking totally confused, whatever you want to put it. But I promise you that puts a real negative opinion in every judge's mind when they come in and they're looking at you because they have no idea where to go and there's already been multiple classes through. But what about that real experienced showman that probably knows how to get through the ring for the most part? What about just figuring out your mechanics, what order the judge is going to look at things? Are we going to go from the rear view? We're going to walk around the front. Do I need to be prepared for that? How long are we taking to handle? Which side do we start? I mean, there's so many things that come into play.
I don't care how good of a showman you are. And I don't
All
care.
of those things will help if you know.
Right. I don't care how good of a showman you are. I don't care how many times you have shown at this very show. And I'm going to give an example. Fort Worth and San Antonio and Houston, we show at those open shows every single year, and I have since I was a kid. And they do not change the pattern. Hardly at all. But it does not matter. Even to this day, when I am showing and I go up and I try to watch the very first class or a class before I take one in the ring, not because I'm not 90% sure of how it's going to go down, because I am, but also just like you said, does this judge go down the front? Does this judge only watch from behind the cattle? Does he watch from the side? Whatever. There's all these things that even though the pattern may be the same in terms of where you go and where you set up and how you lead around, the position of that judge, how they do, how quick they are, all of these things give you direction on, all right, this guy or gal is super fast, so we're going to have to get in there, walk into it, and if it's not 100% perfect, probably just leave it at 90 instead of fidgeting around. If this is a person that watches them go from behind, you need to be up on that. All these things that can improve your odds if you know how to tweak things in terms of setting up, leading, all this other stuff. And again, it's not because I think that the show is going to be different in terms of how we've set up like it has for 900 years. But I want to make sure of that. And I also want to see how that person is, what they are doing out there in terms of how quick they are, where they're putting their emphasis on walking, all these things. There's so much that you can learn by just watching a couple of classes. And again, I don't know what I have to do to make this make sense to people, but they're not listening.
And the amount of time it takes with the return that it gives you, there's nothing better.
There is nothing better you can do for 5 minutes. There is absolutely nothing.
I don't even think putting Show Fresh H2 in the bucket is going to top doing that.
I'm telling you, there is nothing you can do that will be more beneficial to you or your kid than spending that 5 minutes up there watching. And again, if your kid is not going to go up there, then you go up there and do your best to relay to your kid what's going on.
Agreed. But, and this is not just showmanship, obviously, when Ryan's talking about going up and watching Fort Worth.
No, I think it's more vital. I think it is more vital in the regular show because, again, just like you alluded to earlier, when showmanship a lot of times is at the beginning, I think that if showmanship is at the beginning, I am more lenient on it even after the first class because if everybody's getting ready for showmanship, maybe don't go up there. But once we've gone through showmanship in the regular show, if you come in there and you don't know where you're supposed to go or what you're supposed to do or where I'm pulling and where you need to end up at, then again, and especially if you are the lead one and you do not know where you're going, you have your animal is going to have to be worlds better than anyone because you have given the impression that you do not care or you do not know. And either one is not good impression on a judge.
No, subconsciously, whether we try to allow it to factor in, it's going to factor in, period. There is no denying that whatsoever. That's a good lead in.
Yeah, and so that's the number one negative trend is not going up there and watching. And then we'll just take them by species. And I guess we'll start with cattle. And again, I think one thing that I'm noticing more and more in terms of cattle is we're having some spacing issues. And it doesn't matter if it's side by side on rear view or on profile view, using the ring, all this other stuff, we're either getting too close or too far away. And I think one of the things, and we may have never brought this up, but I think the biggest rule of thumb on spacing, whether you're in a butt view or on a side view profile, make sure there's enough room between you and the one on either side of you that the judge can get in, out, and around that animal so they can view all angles of it. And if there's that's what it needs to be. There needs to be enough space for that judge to get in there and be able to see yours and the one behind you and the one in front of you. And that's proper spacing. Again, a lot of times when we bring these cattle in on side view, we're stopping and maybe we're leaving way amount of space in between you and the next one because we didn't pull up when one got pulled or all this other stuff. But again, when they're pulling, they're either narrowing those animals down, whether they're pulling the top or they're pulling the bottom. And the close, you have to go on and continue to fill the holes so you can let that judge have an opinion in those animals side by side. And then the other thing in terms of spacing, and we have preached for years and years and years about using the whole ring and making sure, and they'll do these deals where they cut the corners and all this other stuff. And if it is a small ring, and I'm telling you, I will tell you, hey kids, this is in class, not on the mic. Hey kids, this is a big class, small ring, pull forward, stay wide, all this other stuff. But it's not going to be me. But if there is a judge that he's got it down to the top 3 and he wants to walk those, and this is for all species, you do not have to use the whole entire arena. Again, use some common sense and make that circle big enough. But I can't tell you the number of times here this summer I have had this huge, gigantic ring, and all we have done is walk because the ring is so big and they're using the whole thing. And again, when you're going to walk them that much, and people will be like, you didn't even let them stop. We've been walking for 5 minutes, people. They don't have to stop. I know already. And so do some common sense on that. But do you have any comments on spacing, sir?
No, I think this has been around forever, but maybe worse now. And I should have probably threw this in the general, but I think sometimes we get confused, and maybe in showmanship we're doing a better job in spacing, but then we come into the real show and all of a sudden things that we do in showmanship are out the window. And I don't know if this isn't being addressed in the showmanship camps or what it is, and maybe I'm just the oddball. To me, your manner in which you come in the ring, present your animal, conduct yourself in every way once you're in that ring or getting ready to come in that ring should be exactly the same in showmanship as it is in the show.
Absolutely, it should.
But I think there's people out there that believe that we have to do certain things in showmanship for some
or that
unknown
certain
reason.
Things only matter in showmanship and they don't matter in the regular show. And that is the biggest bunch of bullshit in the history of the world, because the purpose of becoming a good and a great showman is to give you an edge in the regular show when the banners and the buckles and the money and all that stuff is on the line. That's the purpose.
That is the purpose. And it is so simple to me. And yet I think that there's been kids taught differently, apparently. I don't know.
I don't know that, but I would agree with you because, again, I have seen kids show completely different in showmanship and then come in and show a different, even a whole different style.
And maybe better in the regular show, or maybe better. It goes both ways.
Right,
sometimes they'll do a great job in the regular show. They were horrendous in showmanship because they were trying to do something different, or we were killer in showmanship and now it's a regular show, so it doesn't matter. No, everything matters on how to make that animal look the best it can. whether you're in showmanship or the regular show. That is your goal. That is your purpose.
And then I know we've talked this on here before, but again, in terms of cattle, I don't know who invented the Statue of Liberty thing, but if
trademarked it though,
no, it's not me. But if I ever find out who did this, I'm going to have very, very mean words.
The name.
Oh, I trademarked the name. I'm talking about the move.
No,
but
I don't know that.
If I can ever find out who created the move, then I'm gonna have very mean words for this person. What I call the Statue of Liberty is when those kids come in there and they have got that show stick sticking so far up in the air, just like Lady Liberty holds her torch so high over there in New York. And it just looks so dumb. It did, and it has no purpose. It has absolutely no purpose other than you look odd. And so again,
and if it has no purpose, it becomes a distraction.
So I don't know why we do that. I don't know why we think that we need to hold the stick so high up in the air. Again, if the tip of the show stick is 2 to 3 inches off the ground, so it's not going to get in the way of your feet, the calf's feet, whatever, that is more than appropriate. But the Statue of Liberty move, I can't with it. I can't. And it's not going away. I still see it.
I think we discussed this the first time in Florida when we were judging together.
Yes, because you didn't believe me that existed, and I kept pointing it out to you. See.
Ever since then, it's terrible when they come in. It just, I do not remember it as much years ago as I do now. But the problem is now that we've discussed it, you and I together, especially there, now it just is a glaring issue for me. And I try not to let it bother me, but it does.
And then there's also another deal. This kind of goes arm in arm with Statue of Liberty. So when we're stopped and we're showing cattle, there are some kids that want to lock their arm in place, like hold it completely straight out to where it's just locked in there. And again, I don't understand, because that doesn't help you in terms of holding the head up, because if your arm is bent, you have more leverage to push the head up and all this other stuff. And I think something that I also should have said at the beginning, a lot of showmanship is trying to look natural while showing this animal. And having your arm completely straight, locked out there like that, that doesn't look natural. And again, it doesn't do anything. You're literally constricting yourself when you have your arm in that position. It is harder to move. It is harder to do everything. I'm looking like an idiot because I'm sitting here in my hotel doing this, going, I can't pick up on the head. I can't do anything. I can't tilt the head because my arm's locked. And so that's just something that I see it a lot, and I've seen it a lot more here in the last year, and I would say that probably needs to decrease.
No, I would agree completely, and it goes back to that whole purpose thing. There's another one that we talked about before, and you and I have discussed many times, and that's the feet placement. And I'm not going to be nearly as critical of it on the profile. I get what some of them are doing, even a little bit into the steers. I can accept it, but particularly in the steers, Ryan, when we get behind them and they're still scissoring those feet and making them look as narrow from behind as they possibly can, I'm confused.
My thing is, more than that, I mean, yes, we have talked about on this podcast that when you're in a butt view, that if you will widen and square the stance of those back feet, the muscles will flex, everything will look wider, all those things. But what gets me more than that is, I'm not kidding you, I would say 60 to 70% of kids don't place a foot at all. They just walk in there, and however that animal ends up in, that's it.
You have been on the county show.
They don't use the show stick for anything. They don't use the show stick for anything other than scratch the belly. Like, no. They put a hook on the end of that show stick and a point so you can like hook feet, push feet, all those things. The hook
also scratches the belly.
Okay. Yeah, but no, the not placing feet bothers me as much as not placing them properly. I mean, I've started to say to kids because I mean, I do. It doesn't matter where we're at, county fair, jackpot, national, state fair. I'm going to talk to every kid in showmanship, and I'm going to say, "Hey, you did this really well, but we need to do this differently." And I've just said, I've told them a lot, and even more recently, you never placed a leg. And yes, you can train them to walk into it. And we try that. But also, there's going to be times when they don't walk into it the right way, or they move and get it out of sorts, and nobody cares anymore. They just leave it there and keep scratching. It's bad. It's not good. It's not. And then the last thing on cattle, and this is going to offend some people, and I'm okay with it because it needs to be said. I do not know when cattle showmanship became a Cirque du Soleil contest or show, but
like a Las Vegas show type?
Yes. Like, and again, I am not picking on girls because I think girls have a natural advantage in terms of showmanship. They have more poise, they have more grace, they have more intensity, all these things. So they are normally always, by and large, better showmen. But this is not a Cirque du Soleil act. And so when we're twisting our body in these weird ways, like our torso and stuff, and most importantly, and again, I'm not trying to pick on girls, but it is more girls than it is guys. When they turn themselves to where all you can see of them is their backside, on-side profile, like you can see their face, but their body is so twisted that literally you're seeing their rear. It is very strange to me.
I get it and understand where you're coming from.
It is very strange.
I'm going to be more positive than you. I would say
like it.
No, not on that. Just in general, that I can agree with. I don't. Yeah, it makes no sense to me why we would do something without a purpose. That's just where I'm at. In general, I have fewer criticisms or negatives to point out, I think, in the cattle show ring than the other species. I'm going to commend the cattle people for. And
I'm not saying that everybody's bad showmen, and that's why I know that's where this is going, and that's why you and Troy and everybody else did. I am not trying to be negative. I am trying to point out the negative things that I see and that I talk to other judges about so we can make everybody a more positive showman.
I'm just saying there's fewer issues in cattle than others, in my opinion.
I would probably agree with that.
They don't stray too far off track.
They also don't place feet. So, I mean, I guess it's lack of try. But, I mean, whatever. So do you want to do hogs or do you want to do lambs and goats next?
Let's do hogs so we can save the lambs and goats for the very, very end.
Okay. So,
you have something to say about these?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay. I thought maybe you didn't have any.
And I'm trying, again, I'm not trying to offend people, but
people, I get to hear this immediately after the show.
I am just telling you that in the last couple of weeks, something strange is going on. And
I think it's all in your head.
No, it's not.
You're delusional.
No, it's not. And I don't know how this came about or why it came about.
I'm sure going to offend somebody on this one, I promise.
But, and again, I have judged several jackpot hog shows here, April, May, June. Now we're in July. And the reason that I know this has happened the last few weeks is I judged two same states several times. And when I judged earlier in the year, this didn't happen. And now I've watched the same kids show here recently, and now they're doing this and they didn't do it before.
Maybe you weren't paying attention.
Nope.
Before.
You're wrong. But I do not know why or who or what reason we have decided that in terms of the free hand, the hand that doesn't have the whip, that we are going to put that hand on our ass or hold the brush that is in our pocket in the ass pocket while we show. But this is bizarre. And it is. I cannot tell you how absolutely distracting and unnatural it is. There is nothing natural about anyone, any age, doing any activity where you walk around and you place your hand on your back pocket or your hip or your ass area. You do not do that. You do not.
And you're making the claim that this has changed in the past few weeks.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure we have listeners out there that can explain how this is happening, because I don't. I have not even been to. I don't think I've been to. I did see some hogs up at MLA. I haven't been to a hog show in a couple weeks.
I'm telling you, like one of the hog shows I judged, I know one of these kids well enough that like they did not do this, and they started doing this, and every time that person went to, I would slap their hand away.
Did you ask them why they're doing it?
They're like, no, I just told them to stop. They said it was something new.
The problem.
It was something new. It's like,
I bet our friend Mr. Clay's got on the microphone at Louisville and said that everybody needs to put your hand on your ass.
Jesus Christ, don't say that about me.
I bet he did. He may have told them.
Oh my.
I hope.
But anyway, I don't know where that started, and I don't know what's worse, because a lot of them are holding their brush in their back pocket. And I think that's even more insane. And I'm not going to tell you what to do with your free hand. I'm going to tell you, do what is the most natural. I don't care if you put it down on your side, put it on your hip. I don't care if you use it to, help guide the hogs sometimes, get them turned around, whatever. I would just say, do not put it on your ass.
I think the freehand is a good thing to focus on, because it's awkward for some kids not knowing where to put it. And this all of a sudden, okay, somebody's doing that. That's easy. Let's do that. And so maybe it's a matter of where we just don't know what to do with it, so that we've seen others do it, so they decided to jump on it.
And I would guess my suggestion to a lot of you, if you are struggling with what to do with your free hand, I'd just get one of those little brushes and hold it.
There you go.
And,
I'm good with that.
And not one of those big, huge ones, but they make those littler ones, and just hold it. And that will look natural, where this other stuff does not.
Well, I have not witnessed this yet, Ryan. So I'm gonna step in for the listeners that haven't witnessed this.
I hope you don't have to.
I cannot envision. I cannot feel your pain yet, at all.
I've never been more tempted in my life than to take out my phone and video stuff when I saw this the past couple, because it just, I mean, yes, have I seen people do it before? Yes, I have. I'm telling you, it was over half the show. And
I think again, you're just
no. You can say a lot about me, but you tell me all the time how observant I am about everything.
Yes, I do.
So again, don't tell me.
Well, you're trying to tell me it went from zero, the same set of kids.
I didn't say zero.
A couple months
I've seen
ago.
it before.
Very few.
But very few times. And now over half. Yes.
In a matter of a month or so.
Yes.
Okay, let's just stop.
I know.
Take
a
deep
you
breath.
Find it very hard to believe, but I'm telling you, it is the truth.
If you were not in this arena and you did not witness it, if you're one of our listeners,
you probably won't believe me, but y'all go out there and y'all watch, and then you're gonna be like, "Oh shit, he's right." Bad idea.
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I just think it's statistically a long shot that it did happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay, keep it.
But I'm not saying that you're making it. I believe you. I'm just saying it's hard to maybe accept that all of a sudden everybody's changed.
It was very hard for me to accept too.
The only thing I can do is blame it on Clay's. That's it. That's all I got. That's all I've got. The next one, and you're the one that is brought up to me many times, bothers me more than what me envisioning somebody putting their hand on their pocket or their brush, and that is the bouncing.
Yeah, the bouncing, it's still there.
That really gets me.
And Cade agrees too. And again,
it's still as bad as it's been.
I think
nobody's listening.
No, I think people are because I don't see it as much. And maybe that's why I am now more focused on this new phenomenon. But again, there is still some bouncing, but I do think it is not nearly as prevalent as it was this time last year. And there's no purpose or intent to bouncing, but you don't look natural and
listeners that haven't watched it or haven't heard us, you need to
Oof.
explain it, describe it.
It is when the kids are showing, and this doesn't happen in any other species. And so again, I don't know why, but like instead of walking,
Well, they're constantly on the move in the species, so there's a reason.
yeah, but you have to walk in all the species.
Yes, but here we usually continue the pace.
But in some reason in hogs, the kids are not walking; they're bouncing up and down. And like the only thing that I can like to try to give you a visual depiction of it, it's almost like you would envision somebody with earbuds in that's jamming, just walking down the road, bouncing up and down, but yet there are no earbuds, there are no music, and they are showing a hog.
Again, I just label it as a distraction and go on. There's no logic in it. There's no way to put logic into it. And again, maybe they saw another kid do it, so they thought it was a neat thing to do. Just like when we're at a show, whether it's lambs or goats, and you see somebody drenching with a yellow drench. Well, we've got to find out what that yellow drench is. Even if it's just water with yellow food dye in it, we're going to find out what it is. And by God, we're going to use that. Monkey see, monkey do. Do you remember that episode?
Yes, I do.
I think that's what we're dealing with.
There you go, probably. And again, we've talked about this, but I don't think it's got any better. I don't know if it's got any worse. But again, I go back to the fact that, and I know why we're at this, because everybody wants the head up, and we need the head to be higher, and all these other things, and whatever, all this stuff. But we are constantly tapping on the hogs at some point of their body. Normally it's the head to keep the head up and to guide them and direct them. But again, that whip should be more of a guide. It does not have to constantly slap that animal. If you will just put that whip where, like, if you want to turn, put it around its eyes, show it which way to turn, all this other stuff. And yes, I understand that if one's head comes down, you probably need to pop it a couple of times to get it back up. But to constantly and consistently tap, 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 tap. I would like for every parent, if you think that your kid has a problem with this, and lots of parents express this to me, because I will talk about it in showmanship. They say, thank you for saying that all the time. If you think that your kid has a problem, why don't you take one of those little whips and tap your little child on the cheek consistently, nonstop, for about 30 seconds and see how mad they get and how irritated they get? That might be the way to fix the problem.
I get it, and I understand we need to keep that head up. That's a neat look. Everybody wants that, and there's no way to impress me more when that hog comes in the ring, and all of a sudden we've got a sound one that throws its head up, and that showman is letting that hog show itself off, or not tap, 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 and that hog still got its head up there strutting across the ring with some arrogance. I am all in on that, and hopefully we can maybe one of the biggest things we can do is select hogs that are built a little better up through their skeleton and their front end that can actually lift their head up. It's very simple when we go to these little baby pig, club pig sales or looking at the farms. You hold the whip up just in front of their nose and they go to lift their head up and they about fall over forward. That one's probably going to be a little harder to keep the head up on, guys. We've got that shoulder and that knee constructed, so we're coming a little too far forward. And it's a matter of this leads me into what bothers me the most. And I want to see the head up. Don't get me wrong, but each hog has a natural head carriage position that they can get their head up to and still walk with some ease. And we have enough structural issues in the hogs, and I don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But each hog, there are some hogs that can put their head all the way up and go. They can cruise, they can motor. I think it's amazing. There's others that can't hardly get it above their chest floor, and that just is what it is. And if we try to make them go higher by your tap, 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 they physically can't get that front foot to move forward. It's an absolute struggle, and you're really showing off to that judge that, wow, this one's crippled up. So, I mean, not only is it distracting tap, 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 but some of those hogs, and oftentimes we'll see them working harder to get the head up on those that physically can't. And when they physically can't, they darn sure can't move when you do it. So you better find that area that the hog can bring the head up enough to get by without crossing that line where they can't move out of their front end.
No, and then the only other one I have at hogs, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this on here, probably because it is something general and basic, but I think it's just worth repeating because every single hog show that I judge, there will be one parent or helper or multiple that they'll yell at the kids from the side, drive at him.
You hear it all the time.
Yeah. And again, you could not say something more wrong because nobody can see anything when they're down at their feet. What you should be instructing or telling or wanting the showman to do is to get out away from the rest of the pack, go against the other animals, all that, so that animal can be seen out by itself. But telling somebody to drive one directly at the judge and putting the hog at their feet, that does nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely. Think ahead. If you can anticipate where that open hole is going to be, where there's nobody else going to be, that's where I'm going. In the right distance from the judge, depending on what that ring's like. And Ryan, I once heard a good friend, Eric Farrand, in a show in California. I was judging something in the opposite ring, and he's in his first couple classes of showmanship. And I think I've said this before. He gets in the microphone and so eloquently explains this area right here is a no-fly zone. That means let's not drive our pigs right here, not right underneath me. Let's leave that alone. Let's get back off of there. And it seemed to resonate for a while, but we talk about it all the time. And then, like you said, you'll have the parents that encourage this to happen. And in general, I'm looking 10 plus feet at least out. And that's where I want to see him. And I don't think many judges want to see him. I mean, there's times if a judge wants to get on top of him and check out that shape or the body shape or their top shape, they're going to walk over to him and do that. But very rarely do we see any judges that want them basically 2-3 foot underneath them. It just doesn't happen. It isn't there.
That is it. I mean, this is the thing that you need to know. And so that's kind of my take on all of that in terms of hogs.
Well, let's move into lambs and goats. I think we can throw them together for the most part.
Yeah.
I know there's one that you talked about, and I'm going to let you lead into it. And this one bothered me for the first time, I mean, decades ago, literally, when I first started judging on the West Coast.
And which one is it?
Sliding from side to side.
Oh.
Because, and again, we've talked about, we have talked about there's differences across the country in how people show and how certain things have caught on and it's passed on from one showman to another year after year. But for the most part, when I was growing up in the Midwest or here in Illinois, and more so the lamb arena, goats didn't exist at that time. You'd set that lamb up out there, whether you're, and again, I think showmanship and the show should be the same. That lamb has been trained for you to be on a certain side of it, to brace properly, to feel comfortable, for everything to look the part. We have a show side for a purpose. And nothing bothers me more than when you have a judge out there that doesn't comprehend this for some reason, and they're trying to get those kids to show to them on their offside. Have you seen this, Ryan?
I've seen it. I don't understand it, but
I think the judge just doesn't know any better. Or they'll have them walk in on the opposite and circle in the opposite rotation where they're showing you it's just very uncomfortable for the kids that have actually worked at it and have trained these animals to do a certain thing. So once that animal is stuck, even if I were, for whatever reason, would walk around the opposite side, and normally there's no real need to, if you want to come up on them and from behind and look at them close, or if you want to go around the front end, I want you to back off and show me that chest and let me evaluate the shoulder and the front feet placement. Those things, absolutely, you step off of them and you step back into them. And don't be jerky and fast or anything. Just be very natural about it in both showmanship and the regular ring. But when for some reason, if I were to walk around whatever side because I'm getting a microphone or whatever it is, when the kids slide from showing the show side to the opposite, to me, you're opening yourself up for that lamb or that goat to not look good for a certain period of time.
Well, and the other thing is, when it bothers me the most is when I'm either walking down the line and they swift from side to side, or when I go to handle and after I handle, then they swing to the other side. Like, why? If you,
it's confusing for the animal too. Yeah, I'm sure.
If you have your animal set and you are at the front and you have them locked in, don't risk breaking that at any point when the judge is that close to where they could put their hand on the animal again. I just, I don't. And then again, it's just distracting because then you're like, it's like this tidal wave. Everybody swings this way. I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? I just.
So, and I first saw this on the West Coast, California. And I assumed it was more West Coast than here. Do you still see it that way, Ryan?
No, I have no idea. That just, I see it everywhere. And again,
maybe it's being taught in our showmanship camps or some showmanship camps. I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know either. But
I'm gonna let you jump into the next one because I think I know where you're gonna go with it.
Well, I think that the thing, I think leading into that kind of is like we're talking about brace and keeping those things locked in and done and all this other stuff. I think there's kind of like two parts of this, but again, we have gotten to the point, and I talk about this a lot because if you're going to be in the limbo contest and we're going to get down to the very bottom of the show ring and our stance is going to be that far apart, whatever, if that's what you need to do to get that animal locked in and braced, okay. But what bothers me is lots of you are doing the limbo contest, and we've got there where we're like Dominique Dawes in the gold medal Olympics doing the splits, and yet that animal is not pushing or bracing at all. So then you're just doing this for nothing. And I think, and what I say on the mic in sheep is right now more than ever in sheep and goats, we have exhibitors that seem to look like they are working as hard as they possibly can in terms of getting those animals braced, and nothing is happening. Nothing. And Dale will probably disagree with me like this because I had somebody tell me the other day they didn't think this was right. I can look at that animal before I ever put my hands on it and know if that thing's actually flexing and bracing or not.
No, I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm with you. And we've talked about it so many times. I just think there's been a trend where we don't brace the lambs like we once did. I think we're doing a fairly decent job of getting a hard brace on the goats. And if you have a lamb that's that powerful and that hard handling and that muscular that you don't need to brace them, great, wonderful. Do whatever you think you need to do to get the best.
Okay, but if that's how it is, if it's that hard handling and that power, and you don't have to brace it, which I'm saying there are sheep like that.
And
there are.
Line's perfect. You don't need to change anything. Just stay in, sir.
Then, but why do we have to be doing the limbo then?
I am with you. I get it. I don't know. Again, it's a monkey see, monkey do.
And that's the other thing. And I don't think this is as much in the goats, but in the sheep, there are those sheep that are that, hard, firm, all this other stuff, that you could hold it by its head and it's still going to be good enough. Like, not even into the body.
And staying there with the halter.
Right.
Fine.
Right. And that's okay. But if you're not going to have that animal push against you, flex, and brace because that was then let's not do the limbo thing and act like we're doing it because you're not fooling me. You're not.
Speaking of fooling me, we've talked about this a dozen times. When we're on the move or when we go to set up and the judge is looking at you, and we go to push the top down, and we push the top down again, and we push the top down again. You're not fooling anybody, and I understand you are told to do it. I understand all these things, but I am telling you, whether it's me or Ryan or anybody else, and maybe judges that doesn't even bother, even if it doesn't bother them subconsciously, you're telling them my sheep's top line is not good enough, period.
Well, again,
when the judge is not looking to push it, get it right.
It may not bother a judge, but you are literally waving the red flag at the judge. Okay, this is not right about my animal.
And that is a pet peeve for me on the move. I want to see that top line right. I don't want to see him pushing that top up. And man, when you're grinding it down on the move, that tells me I don't even have to look at you. I mean, it just about excludes you from that first pull or that top end.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying this kind of like loining, KF.
Yeah, same thing. Exactly.
You can do it. I'm not saying now. I don't think you can ever push the top down while you're walking around the ring because it's just not going to work. It's going to get the animal off kilter and all this other stuff. But you can push the top down on the sheep just like you loin an animal or goat, just like you loin an calf. But do it when the judge is not watching, not when they're directly standing at you, because just like I said, you are placing a red flag out there going, this is not right about my animal. Here you go. Find it. But that is something that, again, that we've talked about here on before, but glad that you brought that up. And then I just have two more, but the first one, and this has been going a while, and I thought we had it kind of stopped, and now it's kind of back up again. I don't know why the sheep and goat exhibitors, when we're walking into the class, and you'll have like 4 or 5 that they walk in, and then there won't be an animal, and you'll look back, and this exhibitor is standing there at the gate, waiting for you to turn back and look. And then when you look, they still don't go, and then you have to motion for them to come.
Now, there's a lot of judges that probably prefer
this bad
yes,
idea.
There's some that prefer it. They want to see that chest shot. They want to take the time.
Okay,
that they've already.
That's fine. If they're doing that and that judge is doing that, then you do it then. I have never done that. And you had 4 or 5 go in front of you, so why didn't you just follow?
I'm assuming there's a reason behind it. And I think
there is no reason.
The reason is they're wanting to make sure you have enough time to look at the one in front of them, so when they get out to the arena, you're focused on them. Now, I'm not saying with you.
I'm telling you, I promise you, I can focus on you. You will get a look.
Other judges are probably okay with that one.
I do not like it.
Yours is all about just keep moving, efficiency. Where again, there are some that want to see the front.
And it's not even about efficiency, but you standing there with it propped up at the gate, showing me its chest, ain't really doing a whole lot for me.
I understand completely, but I promise the exhibitors, most of them that are doing that, were told to do it.
I know they aren't. I'm just telling you. I don't care if it works for other people. Don't do it under me. Just don't.
Fair enough.
Just don't.
Enough. And if you have somebody at the gate that's letting you in or signaling you when to go, you obviously need to follow their instructions. Sometimes they may hold you up for a second, depending on what the show is and how big it is. But yeah, try to pay attention to what you think that judge wants, whether it's myself or Ryan or somebody else. If you can better understand what they want you to do, you're crazy not to adjust to it, even if you're not going to use that same method in the next show. But always try, and it may be something crazy. I don't care how crazy it is, but if you're pretty sure that's what that judge wants you to do, and you want to succeed that day in that ring, I suggest you probably do it.
Right. And then the only other one, and again, I don't think this is something that I'm seeing a lot of, but I just want to explain something. Okay, so this happens more in breeding goats and breeding sheep than market sheep, but you see it in all of them. When you are not standing up at the front of that sheep, and you're not holding an embrace, and we know some breeding shows don't allow you to brace, all that other stuff, but when you squat down beside that animal when you're showing a sheep or goat, and you're down in the crouch position, The one thing that I want to tell you, the reason why I don't like that and the reason that I tell kids not to do it when they show to me is because you are breaking the silhouette of that animal when you're doing that, because you're there on the side, crouched down, your head and shoulders are up above it. You are breaking the lines of that animal. And so that is why I always say that even if you're not going to brace them, can't brace them, all this other stuff, just hold that animal up at the front, because then you're not breaking the silhouette of the animal and the judge can get a better view without you interrupting the eyesight.
There's nothing that I like better, Ryan, than and whether it's a lamb or a goat, and the animal's been cooperating and the judge has got several really good looks and you're just getting the same look over and over again. If you've got a truly good one, step back and just grab that head and prop them up where they're freestanding and still look just as good as when you're getting in them, and give that judge one look that way just to say, hey, guess what? I'm just as good, somewhat natural as I am when I get in him. And I know some people are going to say never do that. Coach the kids not to do that. But if you're showing to me and you've got one that looks that good that way, I'm not saying go out there and do that the whole time you're out there, but don't be afraid to do it one time and give me that look. Now, if that thing's going to fall apart on you when you do it, terrible idea. Terrible, terrible idea. And I'm going to age myself a little bit, Ryan, on your squatting down by the sheep. Before we made frame sheep so damn big that we couldn't squat down because you can't reach their chin, that was a pretty common place on how to show breeding sheep. It just was. So call it tradition, call it whatever. And I think for a lot of people was effective. Sometimes they'd scratch the belly to get the top line right or to keep the animal calm or for whatever reason. And it was very well accepted for a very long time. And I assume we still see it in the South Downs. And I'm not in the frame sheep game and I don't watch a lot of those shows. But I would guess on some of these smaller frame sheep, if there is such a thing anymore, there's still quite a few people doing that. And sometimes there'll even be two showmen out there, one to set the hind legs on some of these monster sheep. Maybe one to scratch the belly while the other one's on the front. I understand where you're at and saying it's breaking that silhouette, but I can even remember when my nephews and Cade being one of them were showing lambs. If we had a lamb good enough that we could do both, get up in front of them, get them to brace or go down. Like now I would prefer just grabbing that head and stepping back a little like you described. But there was a time that we would encourage them to get down one time just so that judge could see that animal in a more natural state if it was able to look 99% in that position. How's that for history?
There you go.
Doesn't matter. Just don't do it to you. And I don't see it very often in the market shows anymore, occasionally. But there may be a situation where that animal, for whatever stupid reason, just cooperates better that way. And if that's the case, I'm okay with it. You don't see it that much anymore. I've got another one that bothers me as much as anything, and I'm going to make it two parts. So we've got this goat or this lamb out there, and we're set pretty darn good. I mean, everything, the feet are about right, top line's right, head and neck are out of there. We've got the chest pulled up out of them. Everything's good. Yet we think, well, maybe the back non-show side foot needs to move a half inch forward or back. And I'm telling you what, and if you can move that foot when the judge isn't looking, have at it. Move it that half inch if that makes you feel better. But I promise you, if that judge is looking at you or anywhere near you and you choose to move it that little, you're doing more harm than good. You're making that animal look 20% to gain 5% for a short period of time. Because when we reach back, and some can do it without this happening, but more times than not, when you reach back to grab that hind leg, that front end's going to drop out of that lamb and things aren't going to look good while you're doing it. And you darn sure don't want that impression on the judge. And the judge can also think, well, they're setting a hind leg, that the animal's not going to look that good. Why even, to me, don't ever even give them a bad look if you can avoid it. And more so, the second part of it, so not just when you're in class showing, doing just what I said when the judge is looking at you. If we're close, leave it alone. If it's way out of whack, absolutely fix it. Do whatever you need to do. Ideally, I want those things done when the judge isn't looking, just as Ryan talked about, loining a calf or pushing the top down on a lamb or a goat or whatever it may be. We can be out in the Grand Drive in the Coliseum at a state fair that night, and the judge is basically made their speech, and they're saying it's really tough. I'm gonna rethink things just for a second, and then I'll select my grand. Which most of the time you assume they've already figured it out, but anywhere just or before that grand drive speech, and they're bearing down, studying those 3 or 4 animals that are up in the front row, and they're standing back. They can see all 4, and someone moves that leg a half inch, just like we talked about, right at the absolute worst time, and I go crazy because, again, I'm going to go back. Don't do it unless it's going to help you. And more times than not, by giving that bad look at that time when not only the judge's eyes, the entire Coliseum's watching you. Don't let that animal look bad for a moment to gain ever so little. So with that said, that's enough of my ranting, Ryan. I think we covered all 3 species. Maybe got a little longer than I thought today.
Well, actually, there's 4 species. But
4 species. I'm sorry, 4. We grouped the lambs and goats together. 3 sections.
Yeah.
But no, so that's kind of where I'm at on those. And if there's anything that I can leave you with on presenting an animal, I'm not even going to say for showmanship, just presenting an animal in the ring, that I love tradition, and some of those things are tradition based that maybe we're doing. But if you are doing something in the ring that does not serve a purpose, it is nothing more than a distraction. And we just need to keep it that simple. And there's a lot of different ways to present an animal and present them well. Ryan and I happen to agree on this as much as anything. But if you can look natural out there and still get that animal to show itself off and to look its best without you being any form of distraction, in my ideal world, that animal would come in and throw its head up and strut across the ring, and you would almost be invisible. I know that sounds crazy, but invisible is a good thing for me. Make it look like I'm not having to do anything to make this animal look good. If I'm working hard at it, then that tells me, well, that showman has to work hard because the animal's not maybe as good as what they'd like it to be. Please take that whatever direction, Ryan.
No, again, a lot of my comments in showmanship, even on the top end, if one happens to be second or third, it's like we had to work just a little too hard at it today. And I think that's it. I think the one thing that the invisible, I'm not real good with that word or that term, because I want, and I do think that the really great and good showmen, they have style, they have presence, you notice them, all of those things.
You notice that look that they want.
Right.
I'm all in on that.
Right. And so that's why the term invisible, I don't know about, but I do.
Effortless.
Effortless. The easier you make it look, the better off it is. Because just like you said, if somebody is having to work harder at it, then you think, well, that one, he's having to work harder because this and this and this is wrong, or she's having to work harder, all this other stuff. But again, and I do want to stress in terms of the fact that it is very hard in all of the species, that regardless of what, and they bring their own challenges, to be natural. But I promise you, the more natural that you appear and that you are at one with that animal, you are going to be far superior in showmanship, not only in your skills, but also in how well you do in the actual showmanship contest and in the regular show. Because I'm telling you, I cannot explain this any more than I have. But there are decisions at every single level of show, from the jackpot to the biggest major show in the country, that are made in classes, in divisions, and all these other things, not only in showmanship contests, but in the regular show because of your showmanship. And it just is. And there's not one judge out there that I don't think they were leveling with you and being honest with you, that if it is very, very close between two animals and there is one kid that is a far superior showman than the other, the far superior showman's going to get the edge.
Agreed completely. Excellent place to maybe leave that off. And you know what it is time for.
Question and answer. And I want to thank Basic Animal Health for being the question and answer sponsor to the Beyond the Ring podcast. If you will go to basicanimalhealth.com and you purchase any of their products, when you go to checkout, enter the code BTRJLA, and the Beyond the Ring Junior Livestock Association kids will get a portion of the products from a portion of the proceed from any Basic Animal Health product. They are developing new products each week. They currently have Gut Health, Show Focus, and Trailer Ride for you. So again, thank you, Basic Animal Health.
The first one, you're going to love these, Ryan. These are good.
I'm bad.
No, I think they're fairly simple. Jamie, hello. Love following you. Question. We have been showing for 10 years. In the beginning, I was taught that in showmanship, you should never have to touch your hog, and the use of a whip should be minimal. As of late, our winners at County Fair, it seems that this is not the case. Thoughts? This ties right into today.
I think we talked about the use of the whip probably needs to be as minimal as you can make it. I think that there are more things now. And like I said, I think a lot of it has to do with getting the head up that makes whip use more excessive. In terms of touching the animal, I was never taught that. Again, I don't think you need to keep your hand on your pig, but if you need to use your hand to guide that one to turn around or anything like that, that doesn't bother me at all in terms of your free hand. I was never taught that, and it does not bother me as a judge if I see someone using their free hand to help guide their pig. So
I think it's simple, and obviously there is that perception in certain parts of the country, if not everywhere. In 100% of agreement with Brian on this one, that free hand, I want to limit the whip use. If they don't ever have to touch that hog with the whip, that's great. As long as that hog is guided and everything's right, the less the better. I'm all in on that. And Jamie, you're seeing things that you're seeing from everybody. I mean, everybody's tap, tap, tap. So for a lot of judges, maybe you don't even have that one out there that's not doing that. So they don't have a lot of choice in what they're going to use. Regarding the hand, I am completely with Ryan on this one. I don't know out in the middle of the ring that we need to set our hand on the top or do anything that doesn't serve a purpose. But if that hog is going to the corner or going to the out gate and you can take your hand down there, and that's the only way you're going to detract it or detour it from going that direction by putting your hand on its face or over its eye or giving it a push, I'm perfectly good with that. And if we get to that corner that they're wanting to just stand there and squeal because they want out, I am perfectly in favor of using. I don't know that a whip is going to get them out of there, but getting your hand up there and getting some leverage to get them turned. Not only am I not against it, you're probably going to gain some points with me if you use your hand to accomplish something positive. Yeah. Good question. Thank you, Jamie. Neil, listening to one of your older podcasts about judges, and it made me want to ask this question. At our county fair this year, the same judge is judging the open sheep in the morning, followed directly by 4-H showmanship and breeding market classes. All the kids will have their sheep in both shows. How do you guys feel about situations like that if you had been asked to judge? Thank you. I assume we're talking judging the same animals multiple times.
I'm not going to tell you that I am a fan of it, but I understand it and I do it quite a lot. I mean, like last year at Cattlemen's Congress, I did the junior and the open Santa Gertrudis shows. So there's a lot of times at county fairs.
And not simultaneously at different times.
Well, one right after the other.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes they'll pull the juniors out after you've placed them all and say, well,
no.
Your third place one is.
No. That's not how this worked. No, we did the junior show, and then we came back and we did the open show right after that. And all of those junior cattle, by and large, came back in and showed in the open show. So again, it happens at all levels. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think if you can, then you should get a different judge. I also understand that especially sometimes you can't find qualified judges or you don't have the budget to get that many judges and all that other stuff. So if you have a competent judge, then it should not be a problem. So again, I do it a lot because, again, I judge many county fairs where that is the situation. They'll have an open show and then they'll just have an in-county show or whatever. So as far as I'm concerned, when I am doing it, it does not bother me. I'm not a big fan of it. I think that if you can have multiple competent judges that fit your budget, then you're giving kids more opinions on their animals. But I understand the flip side of it too.
Excellent. And I think most judges would prefer not to do it, and some even very uncomfortable doing it. But for the most part, you're going to run into those situations, especially I think at a lot of county fairs where they're just not going to be able to bring in multiple judges to do those things. The final question comes from Jennifer. My kids just finished showing at our county fair, and after listening to many of your podcasts, I went into the county fair with my eyes a bit more open. This may not go well, Ryan. There are so many simple things that can be done to make it better on every level. What is the best approach to show many of those in charge there are other ways to do things that may enhance the experience of the 4-H members? We've had things similar to this or questions, I think.
I guess I'm confused what she's asking.
So what she's saying is she's gone in and she's always thought the county show was fine. But after listening to some of the podcasts about different ways things are done, maybe she hadn't seen things done differently before, that maybe there are some places we could change. And it seems very obvious to her now by reading this question that there are some things you could do different to make that experience better. In other words, we're doing things the same way we did 50 years ago because that's how we've always done it type thing.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it doesn't matter if it's county fair, jackpot, national show, major show, state fair. Every show has room for improvement. Nobody's perfect. I still don't understand what she's asking about. Is the best way to go about changing?
How do you initiate change? I think
the same ways that we've said 100 times on this podcast. You have to go to the people in charge and talk to them rationally, calmly about what you would like to see changed and implemented. And also you have to, the more people that agree with you and the bigger the force is saying, hey, you know what? In this rule here, we think that it should go. If there's 12 of you saying it instead of one, you're going to have a better chance at it. And so that's saying you can also send emails, all this other stuff. But I truly believe in terms of enacting change, if you can go to those people, whether it's a fair board meeting, one-on-one with the superintendent, etc., and you can take a group with you and you can all express these opinions in person, calmly, rationally, and for the better of all the exhibitors and the show, I think that's the most effective way.
Absolutely, Ryan. And Jennifer, good luck with that. I'm glad that you're paying attention, and hopefully you can initiate some positive change. Until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?